What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Pump Podcast. Today's episode, we have a gentleman who is very well known in the ICT industry by the name of Aashiq Shariff. He's a self-taught entrepreneur with over 2 decades of experience in East Africa's tech and business sectors. He started off working at an ISP, which he transformed into a leading broadband connectivity and IT powerhouse called RAHA in Tanzania. He is the managing director of Echo Tanzania. He's the regional commercial director of Echo East Africa, which focuses on ICT solutions. He's the co-founder of Suits and Sneakers and is a TEDx speaker. We have him here today to talk about his experience and his journey, and also to look at the ICT industry in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania as a whole. Some bits of wisdom over here that I thoroughly enjoyed in this conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it too. See you guys in the next clip. Aashiq bhai, Aashiq, welcome to the Coffee Pump Podcast.
Very much a pleasure to be here. I'm
Thanks.
happy.
We've been trying to do this for a while.
Yes.
You're also a busy man. You should be
Been
like,
a year actually, since last year.
you're always on a jet somewhere trying to get you down.
Not yet a jet. I use commercial airlines, but yeah.
Inshallah,
day.
inafika,
day.
pole pole, bro.
Siku moja.
But I'm not sure if you remember this. The first time we met was in 2016. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, to be very honest, but don't let that be offensive.
No. In fact, I was not an impressionable young man at the time. But I had, maybe for those that are not aware, I was sent to Tanzania to do some business development, to look into the market and understand the ICT industry.
Yeah.
And from my contacts that I had established, they told me if you want to know anything about the ICT landscape in Tanzania, there's one guy you go and see. His name is Aashiq. So I called you. You were very open to meeting. I mean, like we met, and the first thing I noticed is, bro, you were suited and booted to the 9s and 10s. And even right now, he's outdoing me. But it really left a lasting impression. First of all, I was nobody. I was like a business development executive, but you still gave me the time for the day. You took your time to explain everything. And then you also gave me fashion tips. So I do appreciate that, bro. It really stood out for me. And I mean, the world works in such a weird way that we circle back to where you are. Now you're in Kenya, you're doing things over here. So, I mean, that was a moment in time that really stood out to me. But what I want to talk about, and maybe if we could just for the audience sake, give us a bit of a history as to who Aashiq is. Maybe like a brief rundown.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I didn't know I created such a lasting impression, but that's my way of being useful. I am a son of Africa, if you call me, a son of East Africa. I'm a Tanzanian, come from very humble beginnings. I come from a place called Tunduru in the south of Tanzania.
Tunduru.
Yes, which is next to Songea or the Ruvuma region. My father and grandfather were there, and I think my family came into East Africa, I'd say about 100 or so years ago.
Oh, so you've been here for very many generations.
I think third or fourth generation,
Hmm.
if I know my history well.
Yeah.
I am so many things, and I'm so many things that I'm yet to be. And so I have a very hard time when people ask me to introduce myself, because I think I'm still evolving. And I think that's the purpose for me in life.
Yeah.
But I've been fortunate enough to find certain things that appeal to me and become my passions, through which I try to be useful and meaningful. So my purpose is to be meaningful and useful. My background is, like I said, humble beginnings. I wasn't that much into academic studies, to be very honest.
Yeah.
I've got 3 other siblings. I was the last born. Come from a tough background. Have lived in situations where I didn't have my parents. I had 99% reasons to fail, but I chose on to the 1% that could get me somewhere, and that's what I've been holding on to ever since.
Yeah.
We didn't come from a place of means. But I'm thankful to the siblings and the cousins and the people around me who got me through school. I was actually supposed to be a pharmacist.
Really?
Yeah, when I was 17, 18, because I think I loved chemistry and math.
Yeah.
It allowed me to feel some sense of power, because I had so many problems in my life. And I think those subjects allowed me to feel like I'm able to solve some of those problems and equations. So I studied in Tanzania, again, most of my life. I set out to become a pharmacist in, I think, 17, or when I was 17 or 18, to England, where I did my A levels first.
Okay.
But I quickly realized that pharmacy was not something that I was
Passionate about.
interested in. I hate
Yeah.
the way medicine smells. And to be surrounded in a room full of medicine for the rest of my life would have been chaotic,
It's not
needless
for
to say.
everyone.
Ningeuza drugs, unajua. So I dropped out.
Yeah.
And I feel bad about it because my guardians were paying for my education. But I dropped out. And one thing that I realized, I was spending a lot more time with the computer science friends that I had.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's where I got introduced to the world of technology. The internet was just becoming in the late mid 90s. I found that to be extremely intriguing. At that time, of course, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I think that
Because you're
became,
18, 19 at the time,
yeah,
right?
that became, I guess, my force to curiosity and to learn
Right.
more about tech, connectivity, innovation, ICT. So I dropped out. I was spending more time at computer labs.
This was were you in the UK at the time?
In the UK, yes.
Okay. Whereabouts in the UK were you?
Birmingham.
Okay, interesting. Lively city.
Yes.
Right.
I think it's also a good community of East Africans in Birmingham.
Big community.
So you feel at
Yeah,
home.
Birmingham and Leicester especially.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Because I spent more time with the tech guys, I got a better understanding of the tech scene, the ICT space. It took a couple of years before my guardians found out that I was not really going to university and I was just spending my time.
That's a different conversation now.
Partying and doing other things. But yeah, so I was called back to Tanzania, and they weren't happy about my decision, and they asked me, what do you want to do? And at 18, 19, yeah, I think it was 19, yeah, when I was 19, you're clueless. And so was I. So I asked them to give me 6 months to find something in the tech space in Tanzania. And if I couldn't, then I'll join my cousins or my brothers or my brother-in-law's family business, because they had a good business of mitumba and real estate, and which nothing of those interested me, to be very honest. So thankfully, back in the day, 1999, there weren't as many tech related businesses, but thankfully I found one or a couple that I pursued. It took me about, I think, 6 to 8 weeks just to see the decision maker, and I was persistent. And I remember sitting in front of him and he asked me, what do you want to do? I said, look, I don't know. I said, Junkie, but I know that I love technology.
Yeah.
So whatever you give me in that space, I'd love to do it. My first job was actually at the first internet cafe in Tanzania called Cyberspot.
I remember you told me about this, yeah.
And I was a caretaker. I used to train people there. I used to sweep the floor, make coffee for people, and a cashier.
How old were you?
I was 20.
Whoa.
I did that for a few months, I think 6, 7 months. And then I got bored. So I went back to the guy who gave me the opportunity, said, listen, I'm done with this and I need more. And back in the day when people didn't know what they wanted to do, they would do sales.
Yeah.
And so he said, okay, how about you come and do sales for this new thing we're starting, which is RAHA. You go and sell internet. I said, okay, fine.
It was called RAHA Wireless, or what was it called?
It was called RAHA.
Just RAHA.
Yeah.
Okay.
RAHA Wireless came into being as a sub-product of RAHA, the company.
Right.
It was, our tagline became later, we love broadband.
And which year was this?
This was in 1999.
And RAHA at the time, I'm assuming, okay.
RAHA was probably a year or so old.
Yeah.
Just in inception. Because internet was a very new thing. This is like dial-up days, right? So very noisy, expensive, slow. Yeah, so I set out to become a salesperson selling internet. And
so you were selling internet to SMEs, B2B, B2C?
There was no focus, to be honest. Everyone and anyone would be a customer.
What was the price point at that time? Let's say, what were the packages?
Days. So if you wanted to... So wireless was just being introduced then, okay?
Yeah.
If you wanted to have a wireless connection at your space or office or home, you'd pay about $4,500 to set up.
For setup?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
and a meg would go for about $1,000 to $800.
What?
1 meg. Yeah. And those are good times.
Yeah, I mean, the commission structures over there, I'm assuming, was really, really heavy. Right now, what for the people working in the connectivity industry, it's become such a common commodity.
Yes.
Like, just
So
in
I think, not I think, I know.
Yeah.
Today, connectivity is not a commodity, is actually a utility,
utility, yeah,
right? It's not a luxury
Hmm.
with what it used to be 24, 25 years ago.
right.
It's a utility. It's like your electricity. It's like your water. Yeah. It's an enabler.
Correct. I mean, in that sense, in fact, thanks for that. Like, the thought process behind that was, it's now become so common that if you look at the cost of connectivity,
Yes.
for example, we're seeing sub 50 cents per meg pricing becoming a reality.
Okay, don't say that because that's at wholesale level before people start
Wholesale level.
asking us for 50 cents per meg.
Wholesale level,
Yeah.
to specify. But when you come to think about it, the volumes are also increasing, right?
Yes.
I mean, as a community, I'm assuming you've seen the trends. We're now online. You watch your phone, you're this, you're that. Interesting. So, I mean, how was that time then selling for you?
I think one of the things that time did for me is cement.
I think. So, can we pull that mic closer? Will it affect? Because it's you're fine, yeah.
I'm okay here, right?
Yeah, you're fine. Yes.
So I think one of the things that period did for me, is to give me a foundation to understanding what I want to do in life, but also understanding how tech will play or is playing an important role in my life. Also, showing me what my passions were.
Yeah.
And how I was able to push through that in my journey. I think selling is a fundamental aspect of everything that I know today. So selling was difficult. Why? A few reasons. Number one, internet was not a utility then.
Yes.
It was a
luxury item.
So for most people, are they going to spend on a need or a want that is a luxury? They didn't understand what it could do, the changes it would bring. And then they couldn't even afford it. Who has the money to spend $4.5 grand to set up a wireless internet? If you wanted to go to dial-up, it was about still $200-300 to set up, and then you're paying a minimum. If I remember, the minimum was $100-150 per month,
which was still quite expensive.
Back in 1999, 2000, that was quite a bit. So it was difficult. But I found my wins through that, and I think when things are difficult, there's a lot of opportunities that present themselves to you.
Correct. I mean, from that period, then from selling, I remember you sort of went to the top of the food chain at RAHA.
I tried.
What happened there? How did that transition happen?
So first thing I speak about this in a book that I have, How to Really Sell.
Okay.
It's and I'll send you a copy.
Is it like a digital book, physical?
Yes, it's a digital book, also a physical book.
We'll link it in the description.
Yeah. So disclosure, I don't like reading. So I made a book that I set out to make a book for less than 20 pages, but it was impossible.
Yeah.
So I made a book that consists of about 55 pages. Okay.
Okay.
I tried to keep it under 100, so I achieved that. It's made up of condensed experiences that I've gotten from selling, and what selling means to me. And how it transformed my mindset and my view and perspective to be able to do whatever I've been able to do.
Right.
So your question was, how did I go to the top, right? So first and foremost, I think you need to understand that in the tech space, or where I've been involved in, and I do this with most of my interests and businesses. If you look at selling as solving a problem or addressing a challenge, it becomes easier. Why does it become easier? Because let me ask you, when you want to start a new business or you introduce a new product, what is the first thing you need?
Customers to buy the product.
Absolutely, right? A lot of people will say capital, or I'm sure you watched my last video, but people will say capital. People will say, I need the product or I need training.
Yeah.
But it's actually customers.
Customers, yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, regardless of what you do, not everyone will be your customer.
100% agreed.
Okay, so if you want to progress in your mission, whatever your mission is, the one skill that I would any day go for is selling. And how? So first, understanding that you need customers, and not everyone is going to be a customer. The third point is 100% of your customers are going to be people, right? And people are emotional beings.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so most people use emotions to make a decision, buy a product, and then use intellect to justify why they did it.
Correct.
If you understand that aspect of the people, the customer segments, who is your customer, who cannot be your customer, then I think selling becomes easier. And what do I mean? Because you have the direction that you need to move in to get better results. In business, people talk about speed is important. I feel velocity is important. Velocity is speed in a particular direction.
Yes.
Right? You could be having just speed, but I think you're then a headless chicken running around. When you understand your velocity, it's easier to go into the direction. So selling for me is understanding who you're selling to, the market, the direction. And then how are you going to use your products and services to address the pain points? It's as easy as that. So back in the day, I'll give you this, and it's in the book as well, how I understood the concept. Because initially, everyone who goes into sales doesn't really know this from day one. I can tell you that sometimes it takes years. Everyone is going after I meet you, Sajid, this is what I have,
Car salesman, I hate that. Like,
so
they don't build relationships, they don't get to know.
I have a mug, I have a box, it looks this, it's got these features, buy it. But
I think that's how by the way, we connected and gelled as well, because we sort of understood the type of sales we expect.
But back in the day, most salespeople, that's what they used to do, right?
This is the product, this is what it does, buy it, it'll be good for you.
Yeah. So for me, I realized that if I'm able to use my product to be meaningful and useful and solve a problem, I get more wins. And this is what I did. So I used to stay in a block of apartments. I think I was surrounded by another 120, 150 apartments. Because I worked at an ISP, RAHA, internet was booming back then. I don't think Google was invented yet, but we had things like Yahoo and Hotmail. Yeah. If you remember ICQ, MSN, right? So naturally, I wanted internet at home.
Yeah.
And torrents were quite popular back in the day.
Bro, all my movies, torrents.
Disclaimer, I didn't do it, but I can't deny or accept. But yeah, so it was important to have connectivity, because I think someone like myself, I try to learn as much as I can every single day. And that has been a discipline that I carry out throughout my, I guess, adult life. So I went to my supervisor and I asked them, hey, can I have internet at home? I'm staff, whatnot. And the decision was no, because why would I spend $4.5 grand to put up a wireless unit at a staff who's not going to pay a monthly subscription? It took me some time to convince, but I think the answer would always be no. When I think one fine day when I was coming back from work, and as I was parking, I look at all the other flats, and I'm thinking, hey, you know what? If I need internet, so do other people.
Correct.
And they can't afford it. So how do I address this problem? And I wasn't as tech savvy, or I didn't understand networks back in the day. So I said, you know what? Let me do this. I'm surrounded by 100 flats. At least 20 people would want internet.
Correct, yeah.
So what's the cost? $4.5 grand. If I divide that initial cost by 20, if I charge people, $50 or $100 per month and share the wireless, that could work. So I went home, took up a notebook and said, these are the flats that I think I could potentially target. I can ask a technical guy to put a switch, pull UTP cable, not knowing UTP is indoor, or it doesn't matter. And let's pull cables. Next day, I went to my supervisor and said, hey, listen, I've got a solution. You know what? Listen, if you put the wireless unit in my place, I promise to bring you 20 customers in the next, I think, month or 2 months, I said, and each one will then pay, let's say, $200 or $100, whatever it is, I can't remember, as a setup fee, and $50 per month. and you have
The customer base.
customer base. And I promised them, I said that would be my personal target. So I think that was convincing enough. So I got connected in the next week or so, or something like that.
Yeah.
How long did you think it took me to get those 20 customers?
Knowing you now,
Mm.
I'd say maybe within the month you got all of them.
Yeah, so in 1 month I got 50 customers as opposed to 20.
Oh, 50.
Yes.
God damn.
And that was the start of what we called the shared network areas back in Dar es Salaam. I am responsible, unfortunately, for most of the cobwebs you see in the CBD,
Yes.
the cables, that
Yes.
was started by me.
The spaghetti weddings at the
Yes,
top.
yes. And I remember within the next few years, RAHA had about 200 shared sites, with each shared site having an average of 100 customers.
That's insane.
Right?
That
And that's
grew
so
because it became so popular.
The
right?
point is, I had a problem that others had the same problem with. From affordability, you want something, but you can't afford it. It's difficult to get into because there's a big, huge cost barrier to entry. And I put myself, or took my challenge as others' challenges, and looked for a way to solve that problem. And I kid you not, at RAHA, that was one of the most popular solutions that people could now access to internet
Yeah.
easily.
You know, Aashiq, that kind of wisdom, again, and that kind of insight into, I mean, to be honest, it's not everyone that has it. You've seen this thing going around where people, there's a gentleman that asks the person sitting opposite him, is like, how many red cars did you see today?
Oh,
Like, he's like, I don't know, 4
Yeah.
or 5. And then, all right, what about tomorrow? If I ask you to go and look for red
you have a
cars,
conscious decision to go and
look for red cars.
Yeah.
And so those red cars are opportunities.
yes.
And so I think that's maybe ingrained inside you. I'm sure it is something you can train.
So I can tell you, it takes a lot of practice.
Yes.
Back when I did this the first time, I didn't know that's what I did. I did it because I wanted something so bad,
Yes.
and I realized others wanted too. I was actually being selfish. I was trying to solve my own problem and figuring out that there's others that have the same problem. I think that was a light bulb moment for me,
Yeah.
for my sales journey or for whatever I've done. And I tried to position, and today I call it selling the transformation. Right? I never want to sell you. In fact, I was with my team yesterday and I visit prospects and customers, and I'm able to tell my customer, or if you're sitting in front of me, I'll tell you, Sajid, listen, this is what I do.
Yeah.
After understanding what is that you do, because I need to understand what you do to understand where I can plug in myself
Yeah.
to help you become better, to be useful. And I actually tell my prospects, if you think that I can't be useful to you, then I don't want you to as a customer.
Yes.
I'd rather know you, learn from you, you become a friend.
Yes.
And when you really need me is when I come into play.
Correct. I mean, so you're from what I see online, you went from sales executive, then you went to technical operations manager, then you went to general manager, and then you went to CEO of RAHA.
Yes, it took me about 9 or 10 years to do that.
But that's I mean, from sales.
That's a long time though.
But then let me ask you, as a CEO,
Yes.
is it made out to be all it is, right? You know, it's job, it's like there's that notion where some people are like, all right, if you work in sales, you get the freedom, you get to do this, you don't get to deal with finance, you don't get to deal with marketing, you don't get to deal with engineering, you just go focused on that.
Yeah.
With the CEO, I'm assuming there's a lot more on your plate.
So yes and no. The reason I was able to grow through the ranks is because I didn't limit myself to sales. This is what people don't understand. Most people want to do the 9 to 5, but want to earn more. Life doesn't give you more for doing the same thing. Life gives you more for doing more than what you're supposed to do.
Getting out of your comfort zone.
Okay. You could call it that. So why did I grow through the ranks? Why was I able to do it? It's because as a sales person, as I did more of the customer prospect engagements, sold more solutions, I realized that there were areas within the business of RAHA that needed to support me selling well.
Right.
So selling is only half the job. You're buying from me because I've been able to do a number of things. Number one, either you trust me. I've been able to show you the value that I bring to you and your life and your business. or I have a product that is far, far superior than anything else. Maybe I have a monopoly. But once I've made that promise, I need to keep that promise. To keep that promise is what gives me the customer for life. It's what gives me my reputation. It's what gives me talkability. It's what gives me my traction for future customers.
Yes.
And fortunately or unfortunately, in a service industry, delivery is not done by the sales.
It's not.
Right? And if I had to be better, then I had to impact and give my views and give my learnings from the site, from being on the field, to my other areas of the business, contribute towards making them better. I'll give you an insight that I haven't told anyone. At RAHA, you used to sell so well that 3 times I remember in my sales journey, we've been asked to stop selling. Stop selling.
You've run out of capacity.
No, because the technical team cannot keep up with the sales that we have.
Jesus Christ.
How beautiful was that?
That's amazing.
Right? And so I was very vocal about the things that the other departments needed to do. And I didn't shy away from saying, listen, let me come and show you. You know, I've spent time on the field with technical as a salesperson because I wanted to understand back in the day. I don't know if you remember, you had to put in a network card into a desktop PC before you could connect a YouTube cable. I've done that myself. I've configured things like Alvarion or Briscom. I've configured routers.
So you've got your hands dirty.
Yes, because I wanted to understand what does it take for me to go through the whole 9 yards, from promising to delivery. And so my contributions on the other areas, to the other parts of the team, is what enabled me to be, I guess, highlighted within the management, saying, hey, this guy makes sense.
This guy makes sense, yeah.
Why don't you bring him onto maybe a management strategy department or whoever the team was?
You're not just a one-trick
and
pony.
Contribute, right? Yeah. So, and because of my contributions and because I was vocal, I'm persistent and I'm a machine. So I will go out there and say it as it is. I'm very raw. Okay. So I'll piss you off because I'll tell you the truth.
Yes.
What that enabled me to do is people called my bluff because they thought I was bluffing. And that's how I actually moved from sales to technical operations, because I was sitting one day with the shareholders and they're like, you keep complaining about this for the last, I don't know how many months. Let's see if you can make it better. I'm like, okay, sure, give it to me. That's how I moved into technical.
Right.
And I tried to improve technical.
Then you became the technical operations manager.
Yes.
Okay. And you did that for 4 years.
Yes.
Then you went to general manager.
Yes.
Okay. I see that transition. You're willing to go beyond the comfort zone. But then again, it also speaks to maybe the culture of RAHA. It must have been a place that was fun to work.
Absolutely.
Right,
I
because
think RAHA was the one of the biggest success factors of RAHA is the people.
The people, yeah.
Right. I believe the business, and I say this a lot more, and people get tired. It's your business is about people, products, and processes. If you do these 3 things well, it results into profits. But it's always about the people first. It's the people that you work with, people that you serve.
You'd put people at the very top.
Yes. Because without people, there's nothing. Right. So I think RAHA had
the right
I'd
people.
give all the credits to RAHA's, management or shareholders and the people around.
So I'd say that a lot of the folks with small ISP companies,
Yes.
growing ISP companies, all had their starting in RAHA. Our mutual friend, I think maybe Said of Green Telecom as well. He was also there.
So yeah, he's worked with me. He's
Yes.
been on the team. Yes.
Interesting. Right.
I get extremely proud to see people who I've worked with do better things in life.
Let me ask you, how old were you when you were made the CEO?
I was made the CEO in 2008 or 9 somewhere.
Yes.
So that would be about 30 something.
Very young.
31 or 30.
31, 30 to be a CEO.
Yeah.
That's a monumental leap.
I think I was late. I should have been CEO 5 years before that, but yeah.
That's and here I'm thinking sales director 30s. Props, man.
But I want to make a disclaimer. I never cared about the titles, and I still don't. It doesn't matter to me. Your titles is the things that you or I use to facade something that we don't like, or
we don't.
We want to enforce that.
And
if I may.
we'll talk about titles with where you currently are, because it's actually very interesting.
Yeah.
But after RAHA, what I noticed is you've started the corporate Junkie,
Yes.
which is also your Instagram handle, and you started 78 Inc.
Yes.
What happened? Why the transition from RAHA now moving on?
So let me give you a little bit of context, history.
Yeah.
When I became the CEO of RAHA, so I transitioned from the sales to corporate sales to tech ops to general manager and CEO. Because I was playing an active role in the strategy of RAHA, how we're going to go in the next 5 years, 10 years, where we're going to do, what we want to do. And I started with a 7-man team before I left RAHA at about 150 people, okay?
Grew quite significantly.
Yeah, we grew 50x, to be specific, if I remember that correctly. So when I was at the helm of RAHA, I had a few visions. Number one, I wanted to be the premium, the preferred connectivity partner for businesses. So that was number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I wanted to position us as a very unique player in the market who does things differently, from the way we operate, the way we talk, the way we deliver, the way our marketing copy was, right? There was a conscious effort in that. And the third thing was a stupid vision. I wanted to be bought over by Google. Because I understood that.
Through C squared or something else.
No, I actually had Google in mind. I actually said, I want to
Google.
build the company so good
That Google wants.
that Google will notice me.
Yeah.
And they will buy me. Not knowing that's not Google's business model, but it's okay. I think when you're stupid, you make
you aim for the sky.
You aim for things that look unrealistic, yeah, and in the way you get something better. But anyway, so that was my vision, yeah. The amount of things that we had to do to reach to a level that I remember before the M&A happened, RAHA got acquired in 2017. We had 3 different suitors.
Really?
Who wanted to enter into Tanzania, and RAHA looked the most promising, right? Of course, it went through the acquisition. We chose a partner. I stayed on for a couple of years, and then I decided to move on to other things because professionally, the corporate junkie, I got it at RAHA. I know you mentioned that. Why did I get that name? Because I think my life was all about corporate, or at least I thought, until people said, you're a junkie, when I would show up with my friend's engagement at 10 p.m.
Right.
There was a dinner supposed to be at 8, but I'll show up at 10.
Because you're at work.
Yes, because I was at work. I was on almost every escalation that went out to my corporate customers. I would answer my phone at 3 a.m. in the morning if you call me. It doesn't matter. I would know each and everything that goes on in the business. And I know you said I was involved in a lot more. So I was doing that when I was in sales as it is. But as I became the CEO, or as I became the leader, I had more, I would say, power to make the calls, to try the experiments, to take the risks.
Right.
Yeah, and then to look at the wins and the losses that we got. And that impacted the growth of the company.
So let me ask you this. Let's say there's a team battle for reign of supremacy and importance in a company.
Yes.
Aside from the product,
yeah,
which company would you place importance? Which department in a company would you place importance on? Is it sales? Is it marketing? Is it finance? Is it HR?
Okay.
You have the right product, right?
Yeah.
Given that, in a team battle, who would you reign supreme?
It will always be sales and marketing.
And you put sales and marketing together?
Depends on where I am in my journey.
Okay.
Right. So if I have an excellent product, it changes lives, it's useful, then I will focus on marketing first because I need people to know that there is something like that existing.
Yes.
If people don't know, people don't. You may have the best of products, but if you're not
no
out there, no one knows you, there's no issue. There's no, success or wins that you get on that, right? Mm-hmm. So sales and marketing, definitely. Okay. Because I believe through sales and marketing, you're able to then also improve the other areas of your business.
Correct.
So it really depends on the level that you are and the journey that you are.
Would you agree with the saying that a good salesman can get away with murder?
Yes, I would agree. I think I've gotten away with a few, but
I like that. I like that. Right. Talk to me now about the corporate junkie and 78 Inc. You've left RAHA.
Yes.
It's moved on. It
Yeah.
became Liquid Intelligent. It was Liquid Telecom at the time, if I'm
Liquid
not mistaken.
Telecom, yes.
What are you doing now at the corporate junkie? What are you doing now at 78
So
Inc.?
corporate junkie is my I would say my hashtag or life of a corporate junkie. And corporate junkie became synonymous with what I did because I was in the corporate scene.
Yes.
I was this crazy dude who was high on the lifestyle or the structure or whatever it was that we were doing, and the corporate junkie stuck. Throughout my tenure at RAHA, which I spent about 20 years at, I've been always approached to say, hey, you know what? I think you make sense. How about you share some wisdom with us? How about
Right.
like we met the first time? Can you share? I've never looked at it from a standpoint of being insecure. If I tell you, then you're going to take away things that may belong to me.
Yeah.
I've always felt that I would be actually helping everyone around me, including myself, by sharing what I know, by helping you be better, by helping you win. I say it today, back then I didn't know. I had a passion for developing people. I had a passion for engaging with people. You don't always have to be on my team. You don't always have to be my customer. If I'm able to be useful, that makes me immensely happy. And my life purpose is to be happy, by the way. So, and doing things that make me happy. So, Corporate Junkie is really a medium for me to reach as many people as I can, to help them, because I had no one as I was growing up to look up to. I dropped out, so I messed up that opportunity. So I had to do a lot of self-teaching. I've learned things on the ground by making many, many mistakes. And I tell my salespeople, listen, a good salesperson has made far more mistakes than you have ever tried. And I make mistakes on a daily basis. And I think that's the foundation of how I learn.
Right.
So Corporate Junkie was really an effort to reach as many people as I could, because I couldn't do the one-on-one as more people started sort of building around me and wanting me to share my stories, my learnings, and my experiences. So that was Corporate Junkie.
Right.
When I left RAHA or Liquid, one thing that happened with me is some of the management team also decided to leave, where I told them not to, but they said, look, you're the leader and we'll follow you, or we don't see anyone else that could lead us the way you did, which I find it extremely humbling, and I'm grateful for that I've been able to be useful to the people around me.
Right.
At RAHA, I had the head of my marketing who worked very closely with me. We were able to do some great things in the space, from pushing the envelope, doing different things. And we always saw that there was always a need that whoever we tried to use as an agency, as a consulting partner, to get out there, we wouldn't really get someone who understood us very well, who wasn't efficient enough, and who had a vested interest in my growth or my winning. So 78 is really an effort to help specifically small, medium businesses look at their people, products, processes, advise, consult, recommend, suggest, and then take them through the journey where marketing, digital marketing, events, your PR and communication strategy, your sales strategy, is all the things that 78 does, so that ultimately you're able to win with your objectives.
Yes.
So 78 is really a marketing and consulting agency, or we call it a transformational agency, because we'd like to help you win as much as you can.
Okay. And that's what you did for quite a long time.
So after, I think I left RAHA in early 2019. And I think 78 was born in June 2019. We're celebrating 5 years this year.
Another thing I found, I mean, it's you're all about giving information. You're all about nurturing talent, and so it's no surprise to me that you did a TEDx talk.
Yes.
And the TEDx talk was, I think, how do I live forever?
Yeah, I want to live forever.
I want to live forever. Yeah. Yes. I mean, how did that come about?
So
By the way, we'll just before Aashiq continues, we'll link that video in the description. You guys can check it out.
Yeah. So I still don't think I have a lot of value to give in terms of my own personal experiences. But because I'm learning, I think I don't know enough. My biggest fear is I don't know enough, and I need to know more. And I don't think I've ever been able to hit that goal, right? I will, but I think it's a paradox, because you never, the more you know, the more you think the more you know that you don't know.
Yes.
So I had people around me who were pushing me to go to TEDx, do a talk. And it's quite surprising as I was leaving RAHA or Liquid back then, and I really didn't want to do it because I didn't think I had anything valuable to share. It's one of the people I work with signed me up for TEDx. I didn't even know.
Okay.
Yeah. They just said, you know what, you've been stalling this for I don't know how many years, and I've written your name, and there's no choice. So it was actually that. If it was up to me, I probably wouldn't have spoken at TEDx.
Really?
Yeah.
Any regrets doing it now?
No regrets. I think it gave me a challenge. I'm not a structured person. I mean, yeah, we follow structure, but I like to be raw. I like to be myself. So if you, and TEDx, for all those who've been to TEDx, know that there is a specific time limit. You have to go through this structure.
You would rather have an open forum.
Yes, I mean, I enjoy this more.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Then,
rather than being told this 15 minutes,
yes.
try and get this many points.
One thing I've been accused of is I over-explain things.
No, I mean,
because I think for me, I'm thinking like, have you gotten it? Have you gotten it? Let me give you one more example. Let me show it to you, because I want to give it to you.
Yes.
To the best of my capacity. I want you to be the master.
True.
It, right? And so I think that's also
I guess people appreciate long form content where you're able to sort of double down on your points, try and emphasize it across rather than over 15 minutes. I mean, how do you encapsulate 20 years of experience in 15 minutes? It's difficult, right?
I suppose you're right, but again, I also want to be someone who is adaptable. I try and study people. I try and study behaviors. I like to read people. So I take absolute pride in one ability that I have, is I will be able to speak down, up, tone changes, my behavior changes.
You know your audience
depending on who I'm speaking to.
Right. Before we transition now into the other current job you went to, I want to ask you, you're as a salesman. I work in sales, you know that. A lot of people that watch this podcast, funny enough, are also in the sales industry.
Yeah.
What are maybe some tips you would give to folks struggling to meet their numbers? First of all, is one of them dress very well? Because, by the way, I'm not sure if you guys follow Aashiq's page. The guy suits to the nines, man. How important is that, the visual appearance? And what are the tips you have for people struggling to hit their numbers?
So I'll start with the dressing well component. We live in a world that is visual.
Yes.
Among the other senses that we have. And so your visual appearance, whether you like it or not, is something that people will judge or perceive you as. In the first instance, before I speak to you, I see you. Before light travels faster, than sound. So
you've already made up your mind by looking at someone.
Yes, regardless. And I think there are studies that show that you make up, in most interviews, people decide to hire someone or not within the first 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, you get the vibe.
That's not necessarily about your engagement. Your vision, the way you look, the way you are perceived is a huge factor in someone's ability to make a decision. So that's number one. But secondly, I like making an effort in the way I carry myself. And it doesn't have to be suited or booted. It could be casual, and contrary to popular belief, I don't always go for brands. I would buy from a street joint, I would buy from a mall, as long as I like it.
Yes.
I'm also known to be very flamboyant in the way I carry myself, but it's all my personality.
To be honest, when I first met you, that's the first thing I noticed. You were wearing red pants,
Red pants, okay.
blue blazer, white shirt, and white sneakers.
Yeah.
So I was like, fucking hell, man, this guy's a CEO of a company. Jesus Christ, I like this guy. I like the way he dresses.
So I believe it's a sign of respect. And I also think from the external perspective, if you've put effort, if I look at you, if you've put effort in the way you carry yourself, I can tell things about how you'll carry other things in your life.
Yes.
So in a profession like sales, I think the visual appearance is
It's very
extremely
important.
important.
Yeah.
And
You think more so in East Africa compared to other countries?
you'd like to say more so, whatever, but people are people.
Yeah.
People are made up of emotions, like I said, biases and experiences and things that surround them. And I think we live in a society that spends a lot of time trying to grab your attention, whether you look at the social medias or a visual element of our lives is a huge factor in whatever we do. So, yes, you can say about East Africa, but I think it's everywhere.
It's everywhere, right?
It depends also on the sector that you are in as well. But one tip that I have for salespeople is take effort. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to spend a lot of money on how you carry yourself, but find something that is unique to yourself.
Yes.
Because distinction, USP, is very important. You are your own personal brand. And personal brands are what really, people who work on their personal brands are people who make more wins than those that don't work on personal brands.
Correct. And what other tips would you give sales guys now to?
So I talk about this in the book as well. There's a lot of habits that I call of the winning salesperson, but also techniques. So first and foremost, please don't let anyone tell you that you will be able to do or hit your numbers or without putting the work. It's not something that you do by chance or once in a while. Back in the day, we didn't have ChatGPT, we didn't have the Googles, but for today's people, I think you have the tools. So understand how can you use the tools
To benefit.
to do the groundwork well. What is groundwork? Is things like I mentioned in the beginning, knowing your market, knowing your customer segment, who you're going after, what is unique about you and your product, what is the usefulness of your product and the pain points. So understand who you are as a product, as a service that you provide to the customer, and then understand the different applications of that product. A lot of people make a mistake that I have a product, blue, white, green, whatever it is, and this will be. The reason I was able to start the shared sites back in 1999, 2000 is I was able to understand the different applications of how my product would be used, even though it wasn't used like that before. I created a new way to be used. So application of your products in different environments is extremely important for you as a salesperson. Why? Because as you sit in front of your prospect, you're able to come up with different ways that you can help them be useful. So that's one. Second, groundwork is very important in terms of generating leads. I think the biggest failure for you not being able to meet your targets is you not generating enough leads.
Yes. I think for us, as a rule of thumb, we have a 25% conversion rate.
Okay.
So you basically have to throw more at the pipeline because for every 100 customers you add, 25% will bite.
Yes,
Again,
I mean, that's a good conversion rate.
Yeah.
In different industries, the conversion rates are 5%, 3%.
It's even lower.
Yes,
Yeah,
1%, right? Depending on what sector, what is the scale of that item in terms of its usefulness in the market. So depending on your conversion rate, it's inherently important.
Right.
The way you build your leads and your pipeline.
Right.
So that's the second thing. The third thing is, I think, I'd like to go with 3. I believe genuineness. Okay, and I say this, it's not a popular belief because as salespeople, we are pressured by targets.
Oh yeah.
We've got people on our head saying, "Why are you not selling? Why are you not selling?" Why? And I have been guilty of this, that you just want to sell and move on, sell and move on.
Just to hit the numbers.
For me, genuineness is, like I said earlier to you, that I will put myself in a prospect. If I see I'm not useful to them, then I don't want them to buy from me.
Yes, I like that. I
Right?
appreciate that.
Genuineness in terms of I genuinely want to know about your business, because maybe it'll make me creative in the way I offer my solutions. I learn something new. Um, Genuineness is about listening. Genuineness is about networking. I made a point on LinkedIn the other day where too many people network with an agenda because they want something from it.
Yeah, I hate those
And I
LinkedIn
think
messages.
I don't want to network like that. And I think that's what helps you in the long term.
Don't appear needy. I mean, you generally have to take an interest in the person you're talking
Yes.
with.
Yes.
I mean, that's this podcast as well. You know, the thing is, it's also a tool for sales. By the way, don't worry, this is all live. This is all the background, all these things.
Yeah.
The way we do things, for example, is if I use this podcast and I cold approach someone and tell them, hey, I love what you're doing. I love the journey you've been through.
Yeah.
Would you like to come and talk about it? Versus, hey, let's catch up for coffee. You know, I have this product I want to sell. You understand?
Yes.
You're sort of also playing on people's
Yes,
social
yes.
cues and stuff. I think we agree on the same aspect is get to know the person you're meeting,
Yes.
get to know their needs and wants. Doesn't necessarily mean it makes a sale, but it means you basically have someone in your phone book, in your...
I'll give you an example. I have customers that I have engaged with the last 25 years who still speak to me. Okay. And they don't buy directly from me. It's as simple as someone calling me the first time and saying, you know what, Aashiq, I like the way you conduct yourself. Who do you use as a clearing forwarding agent?
Yes.
I gave them the contact. I made the connection. I called the clearing agent saying, hey, listen, someone's calling you. Please deal with them right. There was no benefit for me. I just wanted to be useful.
Correct.
And I think those things matter a lot. People buy from people they trust.
Yes.
Yeah, and trust is about genuineness. It's about integrity.
I appreciate that. And it's something that I say, I completely agree with you 100%. Now, moving on from all those ventures, you've now found yourself in Kenya.
Yes.
You are the managing director of a company called Echo Tanzania.
Yes.
But at the same time, you're the regional director within Echo Kenya as well. And there's a name I've seen here. It's called Master Key at Echo Uganda. Could you perhaps explain to me now, before we get into what Echo does, the Master Key?
So just to, I look after the region, East Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda.
Yes.
So as traditional job descriptions go, I'm the regional commercial director.
Yes.
But I've gotten the name called Master Key for the region. That there was a funny story that actually came to me when I was at RAHA, still involved with selling and commercial department. It was my ability to open almost any door gave me the name Master Key.
Master Key.
And so it sounded apt at Echo as well. And
Echo sounds like a fun company to work for.
It is. It's one of the principal founding, I would say, pillars for Echo is to be a business where great people want to be. And how many businesses talk about that?
Correct. I mean, could you tell me more about what Echo does?
So, for lack of a better explanation, Echo is a digital services integrator. What we do is, so again, most of the people at Echo have been champions in their own respect, from tech innovation, ICT, cybersecurity, connectivity. And East Africa has made great strides in terms of infrastructure. There used to be a time 15 years ago or so where infrastructure was a king. Today, I don't think we struggle with infrastructure. I mean, we still have some improvements to do, but we don't struggle as much as when it comes to infrastructure for tech, right? And Echo realizes this fact. They want to play on a level above the infrastructure. So everyone can have infrastructure, but not everyone knows what to do with the infrastructure. So Echo focuses on 5 areas. Number one is using the infrastructure to provide a managed service. The popular buzzword right now is SD-WAN. And how do you do the implementation of SD-WAN? What is the usefulness in today's business scene? And the related services. So managed service is one. Second is we do a whole range of IT as a service. And that's quite fast, from remote hands to on-site hands to helping you become your in-house support center
Right.
to patch managements and giving you strategy for your next 5 years, or helping you do the daily, day-to-day mundane tasks. The third thing we do is cloud. We are involved in public cloud, so your Azures, your AWSs, taking you through the journey, helping you select the right thing,
Right.
to hybrid local cloud. We've got, and we partner with Icolo, right, and in some of these things that we do on the ground in Kenya.
Yes.
So the cloud is the third thing. The fourth thing is centered around cybersecurity and surveillance. Cybersecurity, endpoint, perimeter,
Right.
and everything in between. On the surveillance angle, we like to enhance your surveillance posture by bringing in our own AI tool
Okay.
that helps you with behavior analysis, KYC, virtual boundaries,
Interesting.
alerts. So helping you be more efficient with
Right.
what's important to you.
Right.
And the final thing is connectivity.
Connectivity.
Because I put connectivity the last. It's because for us, connectivity is used as an enabler. I'm not an ISP, but I'm able to give you connectivity if you want me to give it to you.
Right.
And I'm really able to put together a truly redundant and resilient solutions for my customer when it comes to connectivity, because often your service provider 1 will not work with service provider 2 very well.
Correct.
But they work with us, and I'm able to bring both of them to you.
Yes.
But you still have one person to contact.
So it's a single entity that basically encompasses the lock, stock, and barrel of what your business ICT needs would be.
You could say that, yes.
In a way. I mean, and to be honest, a lot of people prefer that rather than having 5 different vendors, 5 different contracts need to go out. You just have one person who sorts out the A to Z. Now, you mentioned cybersecurity, right?
Yes.
Do you think the issues we're now facing in East Africa, especially within the cybersecurity sphere, people should be more wary of it? People should be taking it a lot more seriously?
Absolutely. I think as we grow in or mature in this space, there will always be threats and vulnerabilities. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I heard this as well, and I believe it to be true, we're going to be hit with the pandemic very soon.
Of cybersecurity threats.
In the next few years, I would say. Right? And it isn't what you do after. It's how well are you able to calculate what's coming. So the element today, I would say, I know gold is important, black gold is important, but data is becoming, or it's already another form of gold, of value. And as we move on to digital integration into our societies and the use of digital services, security is a key element of everything that we go forward in terms of the tech scene and tech aspirations that we have.
Do you think it's an underserved market from a business perspective? People looking at doing cybersecurity? Do you think there's huge potential?
It's definitely underserved. But I think it's because of lack of understanding or knowledge, or lack of importance. Look, I think as human beings, we don't like change. And like I said, 100% of your customers are people. And people don't want to change things that are working. People make decisions on what is important. There's only a few key indicators or cursors for people to make a decision. It's based on either love, so the love for something, the want for something, the aspiration for something, or it's fear. Protecting yourself. I want to get away from this. I want to be better than this. All right. At the bottom of everything, these are the two things that people make decisions on. Right. So, and I think until people understand that, how it can protect you or move you places, it's always going to be a challenge.
I want to now, because you have a wider view, you have, from a third-party perspective, you're fully aware of this, the the ICT landscape in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda. I want to compare them in between. Are there any stark differences that you notice maybe in terms of culture, in terms of the way things are operated between Kenya and Tanzania in particular, from an ICT landscape?
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to answer that in, we have differences,
Yes.
but we have far many similarities. And I think the level of the similarities or aspirations or projects or objectives that we have as a nation, be it Tanzania, Kenya, or Uganda, we are at a different timeline in the journey. And that's what the difference is, to be honest. So the differences are key in terms of where we are.
Yes.
And I'll list down a few for you. Number one, I think the biggest difference between the three areas is the maturity in their own journeys. Kenya is, I believe, more mature when it comes to things like your understanding, your skills, your knowledge, your infrastructure, and your readiness, including your digital products.
Yeah.
Right. So maturity is one. So I think it's Kenya, then Tanzania, and then Uganda. When it comes to investments and opportunities, again, Kenya is ahead. One thing Kenya does very well is market themselves very well, right? And then I'm Tanzanian, but Kenya is my second home, and you guys are my brothers. But your Masai Mara is hardly 20% of Serengeti.
But still.
And what happens is everyone comes here and then they actually drive into Tanzania, looking at my lion, and come back to Kenya. But that kudos to you because you marketed it so well.
Yes.
Right? And
Yeah.
you've got the understanding of what it takes to provide a service.
But to be honest, I've heard that the tourism industry in Tanzania is really picking up steam.
Yeah, so I'm trying to play it down, but we're coming very fast, and we'll overtake you very soon.
Look, I hear that as well. Like,
Yes.
I get a lot of, especially within my circle,
Yeah.
from people operating in Tanzania, is that things are working well. First of all, politically, the
Yes.
person in charge right now
Yes.
is making all the right decisions,
Yes.
versus what's happening in Kenya from a
Yes.
political landscape.
Yes.
You were here just yesterday. You saw all the
Yes.
youth rioting with the new finance bill.
Yes.
Let's look at it. If you were to start a business,
Yeah.
with everything that's going on between Kenya and Tanzania in the ICT industry, where would you start off?
I would start off in Tanzania because I believe. So first, I'd like to stress to what you're saying. I think there was a time that Tanzania was lagging behind.
Yes.
But I can tell you right now, we're coming very, very fast. And my genuine belief is within the next decade or a decade and a half, we will be the super economy of the region, Tanzania. Because of all the things that you mentioned, the leadership. And I cannot
Emphasize that.
emphasize it enough. For me, our president is making strides that I am in love with. Okay. Are there problems? Yes. But which nation doesn't have? Okay. Our willingness to adopt new things is moving faster. We have a very young population. And that's why one of the reasons I'll start in Tanzania, because remember, we have a bigger population than Kenya. Our median age is about 18 years. Over 50% of the population is under the age of 21. So they're my customers of the future.
Yes.
We stand to be the food basket of the region, if not the continent. We are surrounded by 8 landlocked countries. And so Tanzania is definitely the place, if I were to compare the two, that I would start. But remember, it's for the long haul.
Right.
If I want something fast,
Kenya.
quickly moving, I'll start in Kenya. Remember, and I want to make this point, I think what I love about Kenyans is your ability to be adaptable. Where Tanzanians, we move slightly slowly. We're cautious. We want
Very cautious.
See if it's working for
More
us.
risk averse.
Yes, right. And that comes from the way of lives that we both chose,
Right.
from capitalists compared to socialists.
Correct. On the flip side of the coin, if you are now in charge of Kenya,
Yes.
what would you change from a political standpoint, from a economic standpoint? I mean, what are the facets you would do in Kenya to keep Kenya ahead of the game, to keep Kenya ahead as that superpower?
Okay. I would double down on my strengths. Okay. Your skilled labor and your literacy rate and your adaptability are the three things that I'll capitalize on. How? But this how I think will affect all the three regions, because I genuinely believe that. I think what happens is the leadership or the government needs to collect taxes, which is important.
Yes.
But they, I think, overly burden the well-performing sectors.
Correct.
Technology being one of them. And if you think from a standpoint of having the mindset of saying technology is an enabler, so if we can enable technology to give them a big runway to take off faster by making adjustments to the way we view the sector,
Yes.
and giving them almost catalytic initiatives that would propel you faster. And I'll give you an example. I think in Kenya is now your finance bill is something that you guys are very vocal about. So kudos to you. But there's something that I'm used to in Tanzania.
Really?
Yes, we've always had that. And if I ever get, maybe this podcast is one of those things that reaches the right people. If I ever get in front of the decision makers, I would say, you know what? Instead of making a corporate tax 30%, let's go down. Let's
Yes.
say 3 tiers. The maximum corporate tax would be about 24-25%. And that would affect a certain type of business.
Correct.
There should be a tier 2 and tier 3. As you mature, you're able to get there.
The more you earn, the more the company turnover is, then you go into the next tax bracket.
But also, when you reduce taxes, you're able to focus on a wider audience, a wider area of businesses that you want to now tax, a wider range of the population. Right now, there's only a few well-performing, I would say, sectors that contribute significantly to the taxes.
Yes.
It's because it's very high. And taxing higher well-performing sectors is actually detrimental.
Yes, it's the opposite.
To growth.
Growth, correct.
Taxing low, yes, we will struggle for the first 5, 6, whatever years, but trust me, it will be an innovation that it's unheard of. In fact, I think your fees, levies, taxations, everything needs to be relooked at. So it has to be lower so that you can target the wider audience. 2, has to be simplified.
So do you think this finance bill that's coming, if it does go through, will negatively affect Kenya? I mean, clearly there's a lot of frustrations here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen the youth collectively go to this extent and riot. Middle class, upper,
yes,
lower.
Taxes impact us. That's the truth.
Yeah.
But what does ultimately happen is it has to be passed on somewhere, right? So the end user becomes the person who is eventually made to bear the burden. And so what you set out to do, maybe with good intentions, and maybe, so if I take the example of technology, if you want to make it enabling, then make it seamless, make it easily available, and remove as many barriers to entries as you can.
Right.
So by having a finance bill that is doing the opposite of that, you can only tell me what the magnitude of the effects can be.
We're already feeling it as an economy. I mean, things are just getting more expensive, and I think everything is frustrating people, especially when people have no money.
Yes.
People are very agitated, on edge, and everything that the government is doing is just poking, seeing how far they can take this, right? But look, either way, Kenya is seen as the Silicon Savannah. It is seen as the hub where all startups come into. And I'm sure you get approached a lot from international folks looking to come into the market, looking to set up bases over here. What advice or words of contention would you give them to basically be aware of when starting up something in East Africa? What should be aware from the funding side of things to the workforce, which we briefly touched on?
So the biggest challenge that I face in all the three states is the lack of skilled human resource. I think that should be a number one challenge for all of us. Some of us are doing better than the others, like Kenya and then Tanzania and then Uganda, but it's still a significant or substantial portion of the challenges that you'll face when you come to the ground.
Yes.
Number one. Number two is understanding that doing business in Africa, East Africa, is not for everyone. Because what you take for granted in a developed economy or nation or mature economy, we don't. We can't. We don't have the option, or we don't have the luxury to. From a simple thing of saying, get me something delivered, and then making sure you have to follow up, has it been delivered on time?
Yeah.
We don't think about it in that aspect, but you know how many times if in a mature economy you expect A to get to B.
Yes.
When you say it's going to be.
Yes.
Right? But you know we struggle with that.
We do, yeah.
Okay? So don't expect it to be met with similar or same business challenges. You'll have that, and you'll have salt and sugar on top of that to deal with. So that's the second thing. Third thing is, if you're able to work on a business that helps your target audience become better by enabling them, being useful to them, adding things to them, value, you have a higher chance of being successful. And the target audience should be on the masses.
Yes.
That has the biggest impact.
Right.
Right? Because remember, we sit on a scale where only a small part of the population can afford X amount.
X amount, yeah.
Right? But most of them are either below a certain threshold.
Threshold, yeah.
Right?
Correct.
So that understanding. And the fourth thing, which I think is very important, is you don't need a Ferrari to be doing business. Ferrari being your product, to be doing business in East Africa.
Correct.
Because we don't have the infrastructure to drive Ferraris. And so leave some of the preconceived practices or notions that you have and learn how to make hybrid solutions. And that's where innovation comes into play.
Correct. I appreciate that. That's actually a very good response. If I were to give you a blank check today, start a business that will, in the next 5 years, be a very profitable, Fortune 500 type company in the long run, what would you start?
In tech or
anything? Just specifically in any East African country.
I'm already doing a few of those investments right now.
Well, you let me know what invest as
but
well.
I'll tell you the few curses that I look at, right? So if you do any business that is focused on the human need, so I'll give you very simple examples. Birth, consumptions, so anything to do with new birth, new life, consumptions of human beings' needs. Death. So for example, if you are into funeral services, if you're into counseling, if you're into, for example, I don't know, casket making. So it addresses the need of a human being's life that they cannot escape from.
Okay, I see
people
that
will always
point.
be born, and people will always die.
Yeah.
As unfortunate as may be, we are in a transient world. So there is a start and there is an end. If you're able to play in something that is a need in that aspect of human beings, I think that's something
you can look at.
Second, if you're able to work in protective, because as you go through the transient life, there are other threats that you are met with in life.
Yes.
If you're able to protect from physical, non-physical, virtual, non-virtual,
increase the longevity of one's life, quality of one's life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? And then in East Africa specifically, I don't think luxury works. So stay away from luxury, right? If your target audience is the mass,
yeah, you can't do luxury goods. I
so
think Mo Devji was also very.
yeah, yeah,
He also emphasized on that, is that most people here live on less than $10 a day.
absolutely.
You can't do luxury in this kind of scale. You have to do sort of mass approach.
Yes,
To be honest, we've talked about a lot.
yes.
Rick, as we wind down, is there maybe any last points you want to cover? Anything you're particularly looking forward to in the future? You've given us quite an extensive history of
Yes.
where you were, what you're doing, where you are, maybe now where you're going before we wind up.
Where I'm going, oh man, so I will always want to first and foremost be useful in whatever I do. So my usefulness is Suits and Sneakers. My usefulness is the corporate junkie. My usefulness is the businesses that I operate in, because I genuinely believe that I can be useful to people around me. So for me, if I were to give your viewers a takeaway, is forget about people tell you follow your passion, follow this, they don't give you practical advice. It's try to be useful. It's a harder path, but it's a less threaded path. And once you understand your usefulness, I think there is many benefits, from personal satisfaction to happiness to being able to make a positive impact on the wider community.
Yes.
And if you are able to do all these three things, for me, the definition of success is that. The second thing I'd say, specifically to the East African context, I think leadership-wise as well as people-wise, there is strength in unity. The day we start operating like one region and not like borders, when it comes to, I don't know, withholding tax or excise duty or cross-border engagements,
Yes,
is the day we take our first flight to space.
we can hope for that. We can hope that the
Hopefully.
powers that be actually watch this podcast and listen to this very well.
Hopefully.
But brother, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It's been great. We finally got to do this, getting to know more
happy.
about the fabric behind the man.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking so.
I think I know you started this a year ago.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see your journey. I'm happy that you didn't give up. I think I was secretly waiting to see if you give up before I come on your show. So well done on that.
I appreciate
and happy that you're growing.
We're one episode away from quitting.
Okay, so don't air it yet. Let me see who's next. But no, I'm happy for that. I'm happy for your success. I must say that you're one of the people who I think very highly of you from the first time we met. And I think I've reached out to you on numerous occasions to say, can we do something?
Yeah.
I wish you nothing but more wins, and if there is a way that I can help you getting to your wins, then I would be more than happy to.
Sure, brother. I'm sure there's more destined for us to do things together. I really appreciate it. Cheers. Thanks, guys. That's been Coffee Pump. We'll catch you in the next one.